Welcome to the Optimizing Beyond podcast. I'm Josh Negron, and this show's all about sharing lessons, ideas, and strategies that sharpen your thinking, strengthen your habits, and push you to grow beyond comfort zones. Let's dive in. Last week, we talked about progress over perfection. Today, we're diving into what keeps that progress alive and when motivation fades: discipline. The things we'll walk through is discipline versus emotion, systems and identity, recovery and focus, finishing with a practical challenge. You're here to build consistency you can trust on any day. So, choosing to do hard things voluntarily, they really do pay off. It's like the cliche that says, eat the frog. Whether it's a difficult or inconvenient habits like CrossFit, tracking your food and water, to uncomfortable habits like cold plunges or saunas, or just putting your body through some sort of stress that you're not super thrilled about, and everything in between. These things can change your brain and change how you approach hard things. They make it part of who you are and part of what you pursue. I think things like this help forge you into a better person for you and, more importantly, probably those who depend on you. Deliberate discomfort is training for disciplined action, not just a feeling, which many people wait for. But what if motivation never comes? That's the key point. So oftentimes people are like, well, I'm just not motivated today. Well, if you have that kind of mindset, you may never get to the point where you take action. Motivation is a spark, where I would say discipline is the engine that keeps you going. This is why feelings aren't really a strategy. Discipline and self management help push you forward. Some people get discipline and punishment confused. I would say those two are totally different things. Punishment is what you do when discipline actually fails. Discipline rewards you for what you have done. Discipline is proactive self respect, not reactive self correction. You might hear people say, choose your hard. And that's because discipline is hard. But I would say, consequently, lacking it usually leads to consequences that are hard too. But it usually lags on the back end. So, which makes it easier for people to forget about and just go with the flow. When something is truly important to you, you'll be willing to stick with it when you're in any mood or any circumstance. That applies to marriage, fitness, eating well. When these things are critical things for you, you will make sure to execute, like being at every game for your kids or something like that. Everyone has felt the gap between motivation and something that you need to do. It's wanting versus doing, especially on low motivation days. We've all experienced this. It's something you just really don't want to do. Procrastination maybe even gets in there because, again, you're just really not motivated. So, how do you keep pushing forward? Nobody wants to do their disciplines every day. Maybe someone who's super automatic might say that they do, but in generality, it's not something that's high on the want list per se. But like we talked about last week, when you believe in or become the person that follows through and does them, you will just do them and continue to do them. Now, one of the things that was interesting is that people think that fear of failure might be what keeps them from following through, when research shows it's actually more about boredom. What about boredom? The lack of novelty and excitement causes people to want to disengage. This is especially dangerous because you can drift away from good habits without even realizing it. You ever notice that when someone finally gets something going in the right direction, or they've been working on a car build for a long time, and when the car is finally done or near done, they sell the car? People get really frustrated and like, man, you finally got to the end. Why did you sell it? Why did you stop? Why did you sell the company? And this is because the novelty and the challenges are fading, and then so does their interest. They're done. They need to move on to something else. James Clear puts it this way: it's not how long does it take to build a habit, but how many does it take to build a habit? This goes back in what we talked about with the reps. It's all about the reps. The more you can get in, the more you can compress the same habits and make them stick before the typical 60 to 90 day daily windows. So, what we're doing is normalizing repetition. Repetition gets the habit going, which builds the discipline. It's really just not thrill driven, which eliminates that threat of boredom. The power of discipline is it turns choices into character and character into results. Again, becoming the person that executes on things that will have a compound ROI over time. The easiest examples are fitness, nutrition, and health. We all know that if we eat better more often, we'll be healthier in the long run. What we do today echoes into our later years. And if we didn't take care of ourselves now, then our later years will be compounded. But the same is true the other way. If you take care of yourself now, you'll have better movement, you'll be able to execute better in your older age. It's the same thing. So, this also affects leadership because discipline and self management go together. And a lot of times that is something that should be focused on before you lead others. Until you learn how to manage yourself, you cannot effectively lead other people. John Maxwell says this. This is a hard thing for many leaders to hear, especially if they have areas of their life that are still very undisciplined. So, if you lead yourself first, everything else aligns. Now, let's be real. When you do hard things, sometimes the hard just makes you want to quit. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to just walk away from a CrossFit workout or something extremely difficult like that, where you're just don't know how you're going to continue. And the only way that I've found in times like that where I can get through is shrinking it down to the absolute next thing I'm doing, not the rest of the workout, not how much time is left or how many reps are left, just what do I need to do next? What is just the next step? If I'm on step 4, what's step number 5? I don't need to be thinking about 12, 13, or whatever. That is such a huge help. It's pretty obvious how that's applicable across the board for so many things. That's the tension that you can often feel, the wanting to quit versus choosing to continue. Discipline is also a structure and a sacrifice. Habits, systems, and consistency requires patience. Discipline is sacrificing the things you want to do for the things that you need to do, sacrificing present pleasures for future benefits, setting yourself up for the best position for tomorrow, the week, the month, the year. The actual actions may look different for everyone, but the sacrifice and setup principles are all the same. I would even say that oftentimes the ROI curve is exponential for everyone. Now, again, like I said before, to the good or to the bad. Now, which one do you want to build? Now, how do you build systems and identity? Systems make action inevitable. Like we talked about last week, identity makes it sustainable. When you become the person that does those things, it becomes easier to follow through. That compounds that consistency. So, the number one rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. James Clear will say, never miss twice. I have a friend who says no 0 days. She takes that even further. Like, if you're going to miss once, don't do it. Let's just not miss any. This is how you get stronger, better, so much faster. Small habits don't add up, they compound. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. They just think that when you do these things over time, they'll have a linear effect. But it's really not true. The more you do good habits over time, you have a compounding effect that you may not see immediately, but over time, it'll start to have some drastic changes in your life, depending on what area you're building. And I'd also say that these things interplay with one another. When you do hard things physically, like say in the gym, for example, that'll start to build your confidence in other areas so that when you're at work and you're encountering a really tough project, you may be more tenacious in getting that done because you've done hard things physically and you've overcome them. So it works the same way in so many areas. When you conquer one, you get confidence of like, no, I'm the kind of person that can do hard things. It's not that hard. And so you just put in that effort and you do that. So this translates into practice where you protect streaks but recover fast after misses. And this is a big thing because I'm guilty of saying in the past, I hate streaks because for a lot of people first starting out with discipline and trying to capitalize on habits, they put a lot of emphasis on streaks. But when they miss, they have a really hard time handling that mentally. And when the streak gets long enough, it almost creates some additional pressure. So that's a great, great phrase. Let me say it again: protect streaks, recover fast after misses. You don't have to have misses, but if you do, I need you to recover fast. And then if you have a streak going, protect it. Keep it going as long as possible. That way we're not going into a mental breakdown if we have a broken streak. Now again, this all fits together. Last week we talked about goals are good for setting a direction, but you can't get there without systems. Systems are the vehicle that gets you there and getting you to your goals. So, this is the bridge to identity. What you repeatedly do becomes who you are. This kind of reverse engineering our identity. Typically, our behaviors come out of who we believe we are, but you can kind of reverse engineer and hijack that system by becoming the person through your behaviors that you want to do, that you want to control, and become that kind of person. That I'm the kind of person that tracks my food, that pays attention to my food, and that controls what comes in, and it's only high quality. You're becoming that person through the action. So it's a little interesting how you can reverse engineer that. True behavior change can contribute to identity change, kind of like a reverse engineer situation we just talked about. Remember the declaration last week saying, I'm the kind of person who blanks every day. What are you doing? What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? That's a great question to answer and reflect back. And that's why I'm glad I found something like CrossFit about 8 years ago. I know it comes with an infinite amount of stigmas, but for me, I found a type of fitness I enjoy mostly, and I can find progress in. I can find a community like no other because you kind of suffer together and you connect on a deep level quicker than you do in a lot of other areas. And it's also taught me how to do hard things, improve at my weaknesses, and like we said earlier, and so many life lessons come out of this crazy cult. And you'd think it would just be in the fitness space, but it's not. That's what we're talking about. Finding what challenges you and keeping you consistent. Again, not just in that area, but it overflows into others. So let's shift and talk about recovery and focus and how you keep enduring and moving forward. Because when someone turns up the discipline and gets really, really good at executing, sometimes they need to be smart about when to recover and refocus their attention. Knowing when to rest and have recovery, to show up and then restore. So often, I hear people think or say that they're afraid of rest, quiet reflection, because of the fear that they'll lose the things that they've gained or worked so hard for. But it really doesn't have to be that way. Vacation and rest do not mean avoiding the habits and disciplines that are important in our lives. Consistent daily commitment blesses character. So, those very habits and practices can also be the very thing you need when you're resting, recharging to help restore you. But not only that, sometimes when I go on vacation or retreats, there are certain things that I'll shift or I'll adjust deliberately to focus on whatever area of rest or rejuvenation that I'm after. It depends on context. Sometimes you have to have the self awareness to know what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, and put your habits in priority order. Which ones are you going to continue doing, and which ones are you going to pause for this period of rest, restoration, and still have the discipline to do it on purpose? That's the difference. You're not letting yourself go, you're doing this with intention. So you're managing that focus and not just time. It's important. Discipline can't get you anywhere if you can't focus and manage your time. If you manage your time, you're not focused. You need to manage focus. When you manage that, you use all of your time. If you manage time, you might still get an end result, but it won't be the result that you often want. Managing that focus, like we talked about previously, like time blocking, will help you execute reps that you have your eye on. A really heavy quote I heard about this was show up because one day you'll want to, but you'll no longer be able to. Man, that hits really hard. It's super easy to apply that to the physical space, but there's a lot of places that can apply. So let's start ratcheting up our discipline. When you think about it, there's a few key things you know you could be doing better right now, and discipline can help you do that. So let's have gratitude for the ability to show up today. That's a gift, and it's also a responsibility. Discipline can truly create freedom in your life, especially when motivation fades. Consistency turns identity into outcomes, and daily execution will take you further than almost everybody else. So remember, winning cannot be owned, it can only be rented. So the rent's due daily. So The reps are required daily. You need to have the focus and the concentration and the identity to execute every single day. So today I'd like to leave you with a discipline menu to choose from. There's 4 options, and I'd like to challenge you to do one of these every day this week. The first one is 3 things, 3 daily non negotiables: 20-minute workout every day, 10-minute focus block every day, and 10 gratitudes. You guessed it, every day. Never miss. The second one is implement a never miss twice policy. If you miss, restart tomorrow. So if there's something that you're already working on, choose this one and commit to not missing twice in a row. The third one is schedule one recovery practice, like scheduling your sleep window of 7 or 8 hours for that night. This is very important because a lot of people don't prioritize sleep, and it's so critical. It's one of the base things you should work on. Take a walk or take some time for a spiritual or meditation practice. And number 4, a 1 daily focus block. Every single day, turn off your notifications, do not disturb, and just work in this focus block. And share your discipline menu with me this week. I'd love to know how it went and what changed after 7 days. And as always, thanks for listening to the Optimizing Beyond podcast. Remember, growth happens when you take action. So subscribe, share this with a friend, and most importantly, put what you learned into practice. Until next time, keep moving forward because daily anything changes everything.